Oh, Rohan. Oh, wow. Rohan, you are asking an incredibly important question. Thank you so much for this question. So, Rohan asks, how often do we encounter the need for feature engineering, and at what stage is it done after EDA? That is an amazing question, Rohan. Very critical question. So, is it? I'm gonna attempt to tackle your second question first about when is it done after EDA. Um, Honestly, I don't think there's really a finish line for feature engineering. I think you should be doing it throughout your project. Like, I think you should be doing it as soon as you get the data, right? Like, I think of like here's the progression that I would see for your question, Rohan, right? So you know what stakeholder group you're going to work with. They give you some initial data to look at, right? 9 times out of 10, that data is going to have some timestamp associated with it, right? I mean, everybody needs to know when X happened, right? And it doesn't matter what X is. It could be a sale, it could be a click, it could be anything, right? You're going to have timestamps, right? So right there, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to expand the, or rather you should be doing, is you're going to expand the timestamp, right? What month was it? What quarter was it? What was the day of the week? Was it a weekend? Was it a weekday? Was it AM? Was it PM? You want to know all those things, right? And that's feature engineering, right? So you're going to do that. And now, and by the way, I'm just using time as an example. You should be doing it with as many columns as you can, right? So now you're adding to those features, right? Which is good. You want that wide data set. And then you're going to go into EDA, right? And then, as I said, you could go ahead and say, here's here's an interactive dashboard for you, my stakeholder, to play with, right? And that's going to give you more insights. And in that process, they're going to ask you questions where you might need more features, right? You might need to break that out features. You might need to break that out. So, like, for example, if we're talking about, again, we're talking about this timestamp, and you do that initial feature engineering, they might come back and say, yeah, an hourly view is great, but what we really need is a per minute view. I need to know what's happening on a per minute basis. Okay, well, now you go back and you break things out for like a per minute thing. Maybe you break it out to 10-second increments or whatever the case may be, right? Or 10-minute increments, right? So there shouldn't be a finish line to feature engineering, right? You should kind of always be ready to do that based on your stakeholder requests, right? So kind of think about that, how there really is no end. But as far as, I think you also ask about the importance of it or how often you should be doing it as often as possible. And also, keep in mind that feature engineering really is not just within the single data set. It also includes bringing in outside data sets, right? It used to be referred to as data wrangling, but I don't think people use that term as much anymore, right? But you should be thinking about what other data sets you're bringing in to create those new features, right? The answer isn't always in a single data set, right? Keep that in mind, everybody. You almost have to bring in other data sets to get that really deep insight, right? Like, if you really want to start moving some mountains, you need to bring in other data sets. So keep that in mind also for your feature engineering. And that fits my previous statements where, when you're trying to do your EDA or initially explore a data set, maybe some of those data sets aren't available right away, right? Maybe you have to wait on them, or maybe the idea just hasn't come up yet, right? So keep that in mind. The feature engineering basically never changes. And you might, and that it may change at a point where you have to go back and say, well, we have to rebuild this model because now we have 10 new features that could be very valuable, and we need the model to explore those too, right? So love the question, Rohan. You're asking a really important question, but there is no finish line of feature engineering. And, I also like feature engineering because it's a really good opportunity for you to be creative. What other data are you going to bring in? How are you going to transform it? How are you going to move it in a way that's still statistically defensible, but shows your creativity, right? I mean, to me, that's fun. Like that's where the fun of data science really begins. But great. Thank you, Rohan. Thank you so much for that.